Good morning, Olathe West. My name is Mr. Flynn, and I'll be guiding you through some ACT prep work with the math section as we get you ready for the pre-ACT that you'll all be taking in October. Well, the math portion of the test is multiple choice, and there are 5 choices to pick from. Freshmen, you would have 35 questions to do. Sophomores, you get another one. You get 36 questions to do. But you both have 40 minutes to do it in, right? So you're like, well, roughly, it looks like you have a little bit more than a minute a question. But some of these questions, you'll be able to get done a lot quicker, like maybe 30 seconds. Some of the questions might require a lot of thought, might take more than a minute or two. So it kind of comes down to this idea of pacing. What you really want to think about, this is really for the sophomores, is you all set a goal a couple weeks ago. Like, gosh, on the math section of that test, what do I want to get, right? Let's say your goal was, I want to get a 20 on the ACT. That's the goal I want to get. I want to get a 20 on the math section. Well, that means that you should get 18 math questions correct. 18 out of the 35 or 36. That would get you around a 20. You're like, you know what, the goal I wrote down was I wanted to get a 27 on the ACT math. I wanted to get a 27 on that. Well, that means you need to get around a 26 questions correct, all right? So you want to think back to those goals, and that kind of dictates your pacing, right? Because if you're on this goal, right, trying to get 20, well, that's going to mean you have, about 2 minutes a question. Whereas if you're trying to get a 27, you're definitely going to have less time to use per question. You might ask, gosh, what's the math that it's covered? Well, a lot of pre-algebra work, so a lot of math from middle school, Algebra 1, some geometry, and some statistics and probability. Now, there are lots of techniques that you want to be able to use on this test, okay? So these are really good test-taking strategies, and we will be using these in the math section like all year long as we do our prep work. The first thing is you want to eliminate answers that do not make sense. Like, that can't be right. This is like the questions like, the absolute value of x, and one of the answers is -3. Well, get rid of the -3. That makes absolutely no sense that it could be right. By getting rid of the bad choices, it increases your chance of guessing correctly, right? Also, never leave anything blank. Finish all the questions. They don't penalize you for guessing. So what a lot of students do on these tests is the questions that they don't understand, like, gosh, I don't know what's going on with this question. They'll come back to it. And when there's like, a minute or two left on the test, they might just bubble in the letter A on all the ones that they weren't sure about, or letter B or letter C. It's a good technique to use. Now, if you've eliminated letter A, please don't bubble A as the choice, right? Also, remember, don't waste time showing your work. This is not a math class. All they care about, the ACT people, is that you have the correct bubble marked. Also, use your estimation skills. All the figures are drawn to scale. If you look at this picture to the right, this angle here looks like it's 90 degrees, and I'll show you on the next question how to check to see if it is. Use that to your advantage. Also, you get to use your calculator on all of the math questions of this test. So use it. Don't do, use your calculator. It'll make it work a lot better for you. Also, draw a picture. If it talks about, a rectangle has, well, draw the rectangle. Or if they give you a picture, put the information in. Okay, it's going to help you understand the question a lot better. So here's our question. I want to take a look at it. Now, this one I really picked it because I want to look at this drawn to scale idea. See, when we see a math question, find the question mark and go backwards. Okay, because that tells you, like, what are we trying to find? We're trying to find a measure of AOE, right? We're trying to find a measure of this angle here. And even you'll notice they put a little question mark there to help you out. Well, what you can do actually is you can use the corner of like your test paper, right? The corners of all pieces of paper are 90 degrees. And if I were to move this over to that angle, I'm like, okay, I'm I'm trying to figure out what that question mark is. Well, I know 45 degrees would be here. That angle looks a lot more than 45 degrees. So I think I could eliminate these two choices pretty safely. Now look at it, getting rid of 3. Now instead of having a 20% chance of getting it right, we now have like 33 1/3% chance. That's not too bad, right? Eliminating choices. Again, things are drawn to scale. Let's have it help us help with this. Well, let's kind of work out the math on this one and see what we could do. They've got this word in here called bisect, which means to divide in half. And so what it means is these two angles here are exactly equal to each other. Like if one of them is 50 degrees, so's the other. Well, we see a nice straight line here. This entire angle should be 180. Well, if I subtract out the 40 they give us, we have 140. I divide by 2, and that tells me that this angle and this one are each equal to 70. And again, I'm going to use the fact that this thing is drawn to scale. Sophomores already know this from geometry, but these two angles here that are colored yellow are called vertical angles and are equal to one another. For freshmen, you can just look at those two angles and man, they look like they're exactly the same measure, and they are. Okay, so the way this is going to work is I'm going to put up another question for you to do, and the Ed puzzle is going to pause at that spot. You and your teacher and fellow classmates are all going to work on either the question individually or together as a group. Decide on an answer and click on it. And then watch and see, like, what is the right answer here? Did we get it right or did we miss it? All right, so here is your question to do, again, either on your own or as an entire class. Okay, well, for this question, we are going to see, well, there's the question mark. We want to go backwards. We want to figure out what this angle is right here. Now, again, I'm going to go ahead and do the drawn to scale idea and take my piece of paper, put it right on the angle, and I can tell that this angle is definitely, whoops, this angle is definitely larger than 45 degrees. So that's a pretty good elimination there. Helps us out quite a bit. Whoops, sorry about that. But now let's try to figure out what the heck the answer really is. Well, the other question we had was we used the fact that this was a nice straight line, and we said that this angle had to make 180. So if I took 180 and subtracted 145 from it, I would get 35 as an answer, which would be this angle up here. Now notice we eliminated 35 as an answer choice. So some people would get 35 and then, oh, that's got to be it. No, not really. So we've got 35 there. And we notice that these two angles together make 90. So if I took 90 degrees and subtracted 35 from it, I should get 55, which is the answer. Now, hopefully what you're doing is, you're not writing down the subtraction things like I'm doing here. You're using your calculator to come up with the answers, because that's what you should be doing. Okay, another question we have deals with probability, right? Think about probability as being a fraction, where it's our target value we're trying to get over the total amount of possibilities. This is question 1 on the test, right? Here's our question mark. We go backwards, and they say, what is the probability that a marble selected will be an odd numbered red marble? Well, let's write down all the choices we have here. We have 4 red marbles numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. So red 1, 2, and we have 3 black marbles numbered 1, 2, 3. They want to know what's the probability that it will be an odd numbered red marble. Well, I think these are the only 2 red marbles that are odd. So the target is 2, right? There's 2 possibilities. How many total possibilities are in here? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 over 7. That's what we would be having. Okay, so again, what I'm going to do is you're going to have another question to do. Either work on it on your own or working on it as a class together. Submit the answer and then see how you did. Here you go. All right, this question wants to know the probability that the marble you're selecting is not black. So in other words, it would be red or white or yellow, right? Now the total amount, we know there's 13 total marbles, which I think I could get rid of choice E, right? Because 26 is definitely bigger than 13. But if I add those numbers up, 3 red, 5 white, 1 yellow, that gives me 9 over 13, which is our choice. So good. All right, let's go on to the next one. This deals with slope. Question wants to know, again, here's our question mark. Go backwards. What is the slope of the line? So just remember, slope is the change in the y over the change in the x, right? So here's my two y values. 4 minus 3, right? Because don't points go x comma y, where y is the second number, and x is the first. So 4 minus 3, and then we'll have 9 minus 0. So 4 minus 3 is 1, 9 minus 0 is 9. We have 1/9, choice F. Okay, here's a question for you all to work together as a class or on your own. Okay, so again, change in y over change in x. Here's our y values. Now here's where you gotta be careful. This is a -3, so we have to make sure we're doing subtracting a -3. People kind of forget that negative sign sometimes. Be careful there. So 6 minus 1 is 5, and then minus means plus. 5 over 8 is our answer. And notice if you, we're just going to keep on going. All right. Well, we have 2 more topics to talk about today. The first one being Pythagorean theorem. Hopefully you remember this from 8th grade year or geometry class, right? C squared is a squared plus b squared. Please remember, C is the one that's opposite the right angle. It's the biggest side. It's the hypotenuse. Here's a question. Find the question mark, go backwards. What's the length of the hypotenuse? Well, the hypotenuse is here. They want us to figure this out. Well, I look at this picture and I'm like, well, it must be 30 tall and it must be 40 across. So it's going to be 30 squared plus 40 squared equals x squared. Again, using my calculator, adding those up, and then doing the square root on my calculator, we wind up with 50 for an answer. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, now another thing we could have done on here is this is drawn to scale, right? We know this length is 40. And this side here looks to be bigger than 40. We could have eliminated 3 answer choices and gotten it down to a 50-50 just by drawing to scale. Okay, so always remember that. Okay, here is your question to do. Okay, so we're trying to figure out this side x. So Pythagorean theorem, using my calculator, square root both sides, we get our answer, choice C. Okay, so Pythagorean theorem, you'll see it. Okay, last ideas. Good old algebra, solving equations. So I think we would all agree to distribute. So 8x plus 16. And over here, 4x minus 2x, and then plus 6. Remember, you're distributing this -2 to both of those. I think we probably should combine those two values next. And then subtract 2x. Subtract 16. Divide by 6. We have negative 10 over 6. I'll probably get rid of those two positive answers because those are not correct. But negative 10 over 6 reduces to be negative 5/3. Choice A. Okay, here's your problem. All right, well, distribute to 2. Combine these two x values. Add 24 to both sides. Divide by 3. And we get 16 for an answer. Okay, well, again, like I was saying, in about a month's time, in October, you will be taking the pre-ACT. We wish you the best on it. Thanks for your full attention on this day of this really kind of crazy week of homecoming. Hopefully you enjoy your homecoming this week. And we'll do more ACT prep next Tuesday. Thank you for your attention.